Hello students, I am Gurjeet Singh from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi. Today our topic of discussion is jurisdiction issue in cyberspace. Now this is very prominent area of discussion in cyberspace because every other day we are using cyberspace as an important mode of communication. Therefore, we need to understand the jurisdiction issue in particular to decide many complicated and technical issues which is arising out of the cyberspace. Now, as per the schedule, the objective of the module is to acquaint students to the importance of concept of jurisdiction, to introduce the innovative methods of jurisdiction developed by USA court in particular, to appreciate the new jurisdiction rules of Indian court relating to cyberspace, to understand the difficulties of jurisdiction in case of international or cross-border issues or crimes, and at the end to make understand the need for uniformity at international level on the issue of jurisdiction in case of cross-border nature of criminal activities. To start with the issue of jurisdiction in cyberspace, first of all I need to understand I need to make you understand the concept of jurisdiction and the concept of cyberspace. The concept of jurisdiction is that this word is coming from or originated from the Latin word juris and dicere. Juris means law and dicere means to speak. So it means the authority granted to a legal body to make pronouncement of a legal matters and in the administration of justice. So it is the jurisdiction of a state or jurisdiction of a court is very important issue. Now there are three important kind of jurisdiction. The first one is prescriptive jurisdiction or legislative jurisdiction. The second one is enforcement jurisdiction, and the third one is adjudicative or judicial jurisdiction. Now these three jurisdiction plays their important role in day-to-day governance of law and order in any other state. Now prescriptive jurisdiction is known as legislative jurisdiction also. It is basically the jurisdiction power of the state to legislate a particular law relating to a issue. Now for the example, if you take the case of India, you will find that center has the legislation power as well as the state has legislation powers. So center legislate within their domain power as well as state also legislate in their domain power, and they try their most not to conflict with each other. So it is the power of the state, and they can make any kind of law relating to any national person or any citizen of this country wherever he resides. It can be within India, it can be outside India also. In fact, Information Technology Act is a very good example of legislative jurisdiction because it governs not only the kind of cases or the offense or contravention happening in India, even if they have started in any part of the country or any part of the world, the Information Technology Act governs the offense and contravention of that under that act. Then the second jurisdiction is enforcement jurisdiction. Enforcement jurisdiction means the power of the state to enforce a particular law. Now laws are enforced by the state agencies, and every agency has its own legislative enforcement jurisdiction. Within that they enforce the laws. Adjudicative or judicial jurisdiction is the jurisdiction of the court to try or adjudicate a matter which is before them. Now there can be different kind of issue which may come before the court, but it is important to see for the court as to whether they can decide the case before them or not, because there might be different kind of parties which may be residing within the jurisdiction of court or not, or the subject matter of the court may not fall under the judicial rule of the court. Therefore, judicial jurisdiction is also important for deciding or resolving a particular case before the court. Now, the important discussion which we are doing here is relating to jurisdiction issues in cyberspace. So, my focus will be the jurisdiction of the courts in cyber case. Now, it is important to understand why we need to talk about this jurisdiction rule in cyberspace. What is so special about it when we have already the jurisdiction rule lying in CPC or Civil Procedure Code and Criminal Procedure Code in India. It is important for us to have this discussion because cyberspace is not a traditional form of space, and the dispute which are created in the cyberspace are therefore absolutely different from the traditional form of cases. So, what is cyberspace? Cyberspace is nothing but the interconnectivity of different computers and which makes it possible for the user to access the information in this particular platform. Now, the most important unique feature of cyberspace is that it is borderless. So, it does not have any territory. So, any information which is coming from outside can be accessible in India also. It crosses the border like anything, there is no barrier. So, that is the most uniqueness of this cyberspace. Second is that it has unlimited accessibility. You can access the cyberspace at any point of time from anywhere. The most important factor for you to access is that you need to have basic infrastructure with you. If you have the basic infrastructure of computer, internet connectivity, modern, then you can sit at any place and access any kind of information. In fact, you can do any kind of contravention or crime and you can easily do it. Now, that is only possible because it has unlimited accessibility. The next important nature of cyberspace is ubiquitous in nature, that is the cyberspace is everywhere. Now, we have plenty of different kind of technical device such as smartphone and Wi-Fi connectivity, so that we are connected to cyberspace from every other place and we are 24-hour connected to it, and it is everywhere. Therefore, our presence in cyberspace is always, even if we have opened our email account for 24 hours and it is whether we are opening it or not, whether we are accessing the different sort of emails or not, but it is available throughout time. So, it is accessible and it is available all the time. Then the next feature of cyberspace is that dissemination happens spontaneously, and because of this spontaneity it has acquired a large popularity and it is easy to access, as we have already discussed. Then the last one is that duplication or the copy of work happens with very ease. It does not lose any kind of quality when the duplication is happen and the information is intact as if it is the original information. Now, these are some of the important characters of cyberspace. Now, because of this important characters of cyberspace, it has acquired worldwide acceptance. In fact, to the level that now governments around the world are in some way using the cyberspace in their e-governance also, so that they can make the governance more effective, transparent and spontaneity. Now, jurisdiction is important for court for the simple matter because cyberspace is very dynamic, and because it is dynamic you can access any kind of information or you can do any kind of contravention or crime from any other place, and the ramification or implication of that particular crime will be felt in the physical world. So, it is not that the crime or the contravention is happening only in the cyberspace, but the effect is on the physical world, and because the effect is in the physical world, it is important that somewhere it should be decided, and therefore, the court jurisdiction comes into play a major role. Now, there are different kind of jurisdiction rule which has come up after the invention of cyberspace. Though at the initial time traditional form of jurisdiction rule was very much prevalent, and so the first time any kind of innovative jurisdiction rule was introduced by USA court itself. Now, USA court at this point of time has two important jurisdiction rules. The first one is general jurisdiction and the second one is specific jurisdiction. Now, for the general jurisdiction, the court is relied on very close contact of individual with the state, such as residence and domicile within the state, physical presence in the state at the time of service of process, or some other substantial continuous or systematic contact with the forum state. So, saying thereby, the citizen or the party has to be within the jurisdiction of the court for the application of general jurisdiction by the court. Now, then there is another jurisdiction rule, that is specific jurisdiction rule, under which the defendant having certain minimum contact with the forum state is important for the court to entertain the jurisdiction. Now, different criteria has been developed as to the minimum contact of the defendant with the forum state. So far, there has been two important criteria of this minimum contact. The first one is that the defendant must purposefully avail himself of the privilege of doing business with the forum state. Second, the cause of action arising from the defendant activities in the forum state, and the exercise of jurisdiction would be fair and reasonable. If these three important characteristics of minimum contact fulfills, then the court can have a specific jurisdiction on the issue. Now, court has applied this two jurisdiction rule time to time to find out whether the personal jurisdiction will be applicable or the specific jurisdiction will be applicable. But many of the time it has been seen that due to technical nature of cyberspace, these two tests are not satisfied, and so court has invented a new jurisdiction rule in GPO Manufacture Corporation versus GPO.com Incorporation, which is known as sliding scale test. In this case, the court classified website as passive, interactive and integral to the defendant's business, and held that the place of jurisdiction will be the place of interactive website. So, saying thereby, court for the first time recognized that there are different kind of website which are available. The passive website is only the website which only provides you the information but does not interact with you. It provides some sort of information and it makes it present in the cyberspace, that is it. Now, this kind of passive website does not create any kind of jurisdiction for the court in the other forum. But if it is interactive, then it has been interpreted by court as if the website or the owner of website or the activities of in the website are happening within the forum state itself, and therefore, the court looks for the interactive nature of the website. Integral is those kind of website which can be to some extent passive as well as interactive. Now, whether court can have jurisdiction in integral nature of website or not, that depends on the nature of website. Therefore, it has been seen again and appreciated by court that in many cases it was very difficult for court to understand whether they have jurisdiction or not. Therefore, they invented a new jurisdiction rule in the case of Calder versus Zone, and the test was known as effect test. Now, under this, the court moved from the subjective territoriality test, that is that a court will regulate an activity only if it is shown having originated in its territory, to objective territoriality or effect test. The plaintiff needs to establish that the website targeted and caused the effect in the forum intentionally or knowingly. So, now this effect test as per the Calder case needs only the effect of the activities in the cyberspace. It can be deliberated or it can't, or it can be innocently also. But if the effect is in the forum state, then the court can have jurisdiction to decide the case which is like before them. Now, apart from these two innovative methods of sliding scale and effect test, The US has a federal long arm statute which takes care of case which doesn't falls in these two important jurisdiction rules, but the plaintiff for that the plaintiff must demonstrate that it has a cause of action arising under federal law. Second, the defendant is not subject to the jurisdiction of the courts of any state, and third, the defendant's contact with the US as a whole is sufficient to satisfy the requirement of due process, that is fair and reasonable.